Lucky you.
36 best
Tuned
holes in
into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about golf,
Sandy.
poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script,
Down the stretch they
and
come.
we are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Alternate Shot golf fans, we're really lucky today. Here before us is Max Adler, who's been with Golf Digest for 17 years. He's got big titles over there. He's involved in this New Look magazine. And who are we looking at here is probably the phenom for the women's golf tour, who may make this tour even more interesting than it already is.
Excited to have Rose Zhang grace the cover of our latest issue, which hits this week. A lot of people probably know her from her win at the Augusta National Women's Amateur Championship earlier this year in 23. And then in her pro debut, what does she do? She wins the tournament outright at Liberty National, and that has been a pretty solid start to a great season. I emailed with her the other day. She's in the midst of a 4-week stretch in Asia, China, Japan, Malaysia, just a really pretty hectic schedule, but she's learning how to be a pro, learning how to play in different climates, before different crowds, how to travel. So she's kind of taking on all those really outsized expectations and handling herself pretty well. And I think what's interesting from an instruction angle is she kind of has the swing us average folks should probably copy. You know, it's smooth. Swings at about 100 miles an hour. It's a lot of guys.
I want to come back to the swing, but you brought about, people think, okay, you're on the tour, Will Zalatoris, he's on the tour. He was or Jordan Spieth or whatever. One of the things we learned with Eric Cole, who's still a PGA Tour rookie, and maybe the Tour Rookie of the Year, he says that coming up slowly like he did in his journey helped him because he knew all those other things. He knew some of the people that were on the tour. He knew how to get to a hotel. You get from one place to the next.
Common conceit is that, if you've made it to the PGA Tour, your game is good enough. Your swing is sound enough. Your equipment is right. It's not, now's no time to sort of start tinkering. I remember I once had an agent tell me the two best types of players he looked for were smart and those who are kind of maybe on the opposite end of the intellectual spectrum, because you don't want to be caught in the middle of thinking, okay, overcomplicate the game and think of new ways to dig yourself into a hole.
So Rose Zhang is a new acquaintance or a friend of yours. Think back 17 years. Who plays this game or played the game professionally that simplified it like you talk about and had great results?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dustin Johnson comes to mind of somebody who's played the game, very single-mindedly, just power fade, enjoys himself. He's got his brother Austin on the bag, who creates that kind of level of familiar comfort versus, other guys who, they're changing caddies. They're talking about their shots ad nauseum. They're doing complications for the moisture factor and bringing their TrackMan to the range. Dustin, I think he's a prime example of a guy who's just hit it hard, hit it straight, make the putt, have fun, move on. And he's won accordingly.
It may have helped him win at Oakmont because he certainly had every weird thing happen to him. And then he's struggling to win this thing down the 18th, even down to that last putt above the hole, which I think he made. But if he spins it by, he's in the playoff, or maybe even loses it, like what happened to him in against Spieth in 2015 in Chambers Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was, I think we all remember that as a bit of a black mark with the way that tournament was run and notifying him that you may have a penalty coming. We can't say for sure, and how a player is supposed to respond to that while he's in contention for a major championship would certainly make a lot of people crumble with the various outcomes in their mind at once. But DJ was able to just put it to play great golf, and as I remember, he did make that last putt on. From what little I've heard through the grapevine, is Dustin, still then majorless, quickly rinsed that disappointment from his mind. And I think he had his son was recently born then, and was able to wake up with a smile on his face, be grateful for having a beautiful wife and a young family, and getting to play pro golf, and didn't let the cloud of that 3-putt hang over him any longer than a few minutes.
Nicklaus must have been good at that, because how many times he finished third, second, and won majors. Who else in your mind, in your travels, has that short-term memory to go to the next shot or the next putt and forget what happened 2 seconds ago or 2 years ago?
Hard to know. I think my sense is that Nicklaus and Dustin Johnson, not often two names you'd put together in the same sentence, and that maybe Nicklaus's ability to forget or not be sort of clouded by those second place finishes, third place finishes, was almost sort of more willful. Whereas with DJ, maybe it's sort of more part of his natural temperament.
As far as longevity, when you guys are sitting around talking about, let's go with Rozang this week, or let's go with some other player next week, what's the discussion like around the longevity of a guy named Bernard Langer?
He certainly is a miracle and an exception, and a guy who's playing fantastic golf and all throughout his 50s and 60s certainly speaks to probably your average recreational reader. But I say he's the exception because I think PGA Tour careers are only getting shorter and shorter, which is probably a confluence of how the game is played. Guys swing so hard. The violence in the modern golf swing is pretty severe, as well as kind of like the riches in a game. If you can go have a good career in 10 years, not get terribly injured in your 20s and early 30s, and then retire, I think a lot of guys are pretty happy with that. Versus maybe in a former era, the golf swing was different. Guys didn't get injured as much, and the finances were such that you kind of needed to play until you were 50 or play on the Champions Tour to make a comfortable living. But now, you can just make a lot early and then get out of the game.
Is it too much? The money?
Obviously, with all the changes coming with Live and now Nuco and purses doubling, there does seem to be that risk of tournament golf becoming a bit of an exhibition where some of the drama is lost. You don't get the sense that players' lives, stand to be changed by a putt made or missed. But I will say, I think the 4 majors have really risen in stature. They are the 4 times that the best players in the world get together, and they feel that much more heated for that reason. And it just goes to show that you're only a major if everyone knows you are. If you try to say that you are, you probably aren't.
Yeah.
70 million still doesn't make it that much more important.
Throughout sports altogether. You look at every sport, these guys get paid a lot. Aaron Judge, for instance, his life won't change regardless of where the Yankees finish, but he still wants a World Series ring. Everybody wants a Super Bowl ring, and everybody wants to win a major.
Yeah, I mean there's obviously the pipelines to get spots in those majors. Those will start to dwindle and dry up if Liv doesn't get world ranking points awarded to its events. But as Brooks Koepka showed last year, you can still just go ahead and win the PGA Championship, and then he's going to take care of himself for a while. I mean, I do think that we're on the verge of getting that all closer to sorted. I mean, with the announcement of the PGA Tour framework deal to form NewCo with Saudi investment, PGA Tour assets, perhaps other private equity coming in, all of that dispute has sort of settled. Like everyone's kind of friends now.
Really?
Well, I think this is going to go slowly. People may still continue to lose world ranking points all throughout 2024 if they're on Live or and soon enough it's going to get sorted and reordered.
Rose Zhang comes, I think she won the NCAAs too in that little string that just before coming out to New Jersey to win that her premier event, which is, that's almost like Babe Diedrichson lore. What do you like about her swing?
Oh, I mean, Rose has that knack to just find the center of the club face. She's got great tempo, just sort of syrupy to watch, doesn't go at the ball overly aggressive, seems to be able to hit draws, fade, high, low. It just seems like a very low volatility swing. And as I mentioned earlier, at that kind of 100, 105 kind of swing speed range, I'm not sure exactly what she clocks in at. It's just much closer to the middle of the bell curve for a recreational golfer, male or female. And I think more players would have greater success copying someone like Rose than saying, hey, I'm an 8 handicap. Let's look at how Justin Thomas or Brooks Koepka are delivering the club. Those are not the right models for them.
What about this Kyle Berkshire, 575 yards?
Amazing. I mean, what an athlete, and it's almost terrifying, alarming, amazing to think of golf in a future state, however many decades from now, where you could have half a field filled with guys like Kyle Berkshire. The game of golf as we know it is just kind of completely changed, where there are just more and more humans who can hit the ball 400, 500 yards at a time. But as for now, I've had the personal experience of playing with several long drive champions, and I've never seen one who had the complete game to threaten playing true championship golf.
What's your thoughts so far in this brief career that Ludwig Oberg's had? And
I haven't spent any time with him. From what I hear, he's just got that sound off the club face that distinguishes itself. Most guys, any of us, you go to a PGA Tour driving range and you look at 50 guys hitting balls and they all look so good. I mean, the swings are syrupy. They're just putting ball after ball after ball right on a flag stick. You just think, God, any one of these guys seems like they could go shoot 62, no problem. I was looking in our archive the other day, and Steve Williams mentioned, I think in like 2013, Brooks Koepka was the one guy on the range who he thought the ball sounded like Tiger. And that was before Brooks had won anything. And so that was kind of that was a correct prophecy by Steve, that sometimes you can just hear that slight difference. And by all reports, Ludwig, he's kind of makes that sound too.
You were on the range and Billy Horschel was hitting balls next to Max Homa, and behind them was Ludwig, and you had a blindfold on, you'd hear a different sound from him versus those two?
Great question. I will have to try that. I don't know that I would be
Maybe
able to.
we can work on that.
Maybe
We'll
we
go to
could.
we'll
Yeah,
go to
that's
the
a good
range.
idea.
Brandon Matthews has a pretty hard sound to his golf ball. He hasn't managed to keep it going forward and shooting 62 like Oberg did and our friend Eric Cole did yesterday. That was pretty exciting.
I got so funny. My lone little highlight of my very mediocre career is I got paired with Brandon Matthews through 36 holes of the U.S. Amateur in 2013 at the Country Club. And I'm 31 years old, very much, which put me as one of the oldest guys in the field. And if I was the shortest hitter in the field, Brandon was the longest. And we had a solid 100 yards between our tee balls for 36 holes, which was pretty dispiriting.
What's your outlook for the 2024 tour? Is it going to be more of the same? Is it going to be distractions? Is Phil Mickelson coming back to the tour and terrorizing everybody? And what's going to happen?
I wish I had a good answer for you. If I'm being completely honest, I would say this time next year, however professional golf looks today, it's going to look about the same. I think we are in a state of suspended animation where it's just they're trying to figure out the new framework. Live is over here. The PGA Tour is over here. There's so much to be sorted out, so much fine print, so many details to consider. I just think this is going to grind slowly. And so 24 is going to look a lot like 23.
This has been great, Max. This has been great. And what's next for Golf Digest other than this new cover, the new way you're looking at it? It's really interesting what you guys have transformed this into.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Our goal is obviously always to have a couple of stories in every issue that are just absolute must reads and, surprises. And I feel like if we can hit a couple of those big home runs in every issue, people will be grateful and keep on reading.
Golf will provide those for sure. Golf is full of those kind of things. You never know where they're coming from, but they certainly usually turn up.
The game feels more culturally relevant at this moment than I've ever known. I can only guess that golf in 2023 feels like golf must have felt in the late 60s when Arnie was making the game come alive on color TV for the first time. But like right now, golf is just, it's the thing. Musicians, athletes, actors, it's this sort of post-pandemic boom coupled with everything that's happening of interest in the professional game. It's a great time to be in golf and talking about golf.
Thanks for joining us
Casper,
today.
Billy
We
Harmon,
really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity,
And please
Arky,
subscribe to the
Two
show
Outer,
and hit the
Claude
bell
Harmon,
icon so you get notified
Movie
of
Classics,
new episodes.
Mark Gable,
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job,
and hit them off.
Best 36 Holes.